Hey, it's Sue Greenwald here with Awakened Stories. Today I'm here with Deanna Carr with the Mystical Moonlight. Hey, Deanna, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Today's surprise topic is Howard Hughes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was told to do Howard Hughes a few weeks ago, and I'm like, I don't actually know that much about him other than he was a really super wealthy guy in like the 40s or whatever, and
hmm
very eccentric and had like OCD and a lot of, psychological disorders toward the end of his
hmm
life. So I did quite a little, just a little research, but I found quite a bit of interesting stuff that we're going to have to unpack. So what I'd like to do is a quick overview today and then
Okay.
kind of go point by point about some of the highlights of his life and get your take on it if I could.
Of course.
Okay, so he was born in 1905, died 1976. Did he actually die?
Yes.
Okay. Now, he was a wealthy, eccentric. He was known for his aviation business.
hmm
He was an engineer, a film producer, real estate developer, philanthropist. He owned Hughes Aircraft. He knew all the famous people way back when, okay, all the Hollywood actresses, all the business people, and had quite an interesting life. And this is just from a little bit of research that I did. Okay, so there is some question about his true date of birth and his place of birth. I guess there are two birth certificates, each with different dates on them. And I'm not sure that that exactly matters, but that could be a red flag. Okay.
Yeah,
Is it a red flag?
it is.
Okay. Do you want to just tell us?
Okay, so the two different birth certificates is he actually has a clone out. So this was towards the beginning of them switching people, I guess you want to say, but they didn't do it correctly. So usually when they start this process, they go through kind of like that trial and error, and they made a huge error and they left it. Once it's out in public, it's hard to really take back in this time frame. Nowadays, they kind of make everybody think that they're going crazy, but they weren't able to get it back in time, so that's why there was evidence of the two.
Okay. Whoop, we're going off road already. All right. So there was a real human born, whatever date, whatever location, and then there was a
Mhm,
clone. So they gave him a different birth certificate, birth date, etc.
mhm.
Were they existing at the same time?
They were. They're
Oh.
existing at the same time. Just one was not on the right track, I guess you want to say it. They were switched, but they were still li does this make sense? They're still living, but they were switched. So right now, when we talk about clones, most of the time we say one of them is somewhere else, usually being the moon. This is they're still existing in this zone, just they're not on their correct paths. They're interswitched.
Okay, is the clone still around now?
Yes.
Oh, does the clone have a different name?
Yes.
Is the name something we would recognize?
I'm getting 50-50.
Okay.
So it seems like some people will recognize his name, some people won't.
Whoa. Okay, do you know the name or
The only name I've been given right now is Richard.
okay, that's not super helpful, but thank you.
Well, well, think about so that they won't give me the full name. They said that I'm not supposed to give that,
Okay.
but Richard is the name I'm given. But I know that's going to leave people down a rabbit hole of information. So
Okay.
somebody else will figure it out. But yeah, so I'm given the name Richard. So look in that time frame. They are going to be popular and famous, but not as famous. Does that make sense? They're kind of in the background.
Yes. Okay. Because he was wildly wealthy. and
Hmm.
popular and famous, all the good things.
Hmm.
And there were so many red flags when I read just the overview of his life. I didn't go
Hmm.
deep, but I'm like, wow, this is a deep story. That's why I wanted to
Yeah.
do it point by point. So, okay, clone is out there and active. Okay. Well, let's see what else we've got. And we're going to circle back to that maybe a few billion more times, okay?
Got it.
So the real human was basically killed, and the
Yeah.
clone is out there, but with a different name.
Hmm.
So okay, so one of the things after I read his life story, he was super wealthy. Okay,
Hmm.
right from the get-go. Like around, I think it was age 17, 18, 19, he was out doing stuff in Hollywood and he was
Hmm.
doing this and he was doing that. And I'm like, okay, the average, especially back then, most people didn't have money way back when. Like it was a hard
Hmm.
time,
Yeah.
right? And for this guy to get funding and to get backing and to have the money to do all the stuff he did seems suspicious. Okay.
Hmm.
So I went back and I tried to figure out where he got his money to start with. And it said his father had tinkered in the garage and he learned to tinker and become an engineer and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that doesn't seem right to me. So how did he get started? How did he get his funding? How did he get all that money to get started with all these businesses and stuff?
He knew people. He knew people that he could do favors for that would give him funding.
Okay.
Didn't say what type of favors, but he did favors.
Okay. Okay. All
Does
right.
that give him?
It's
I try
gonna
not
be,
to say it, but
go ahead and say it.
he did sexual favors.
Oh, that I wasn't even on the same page as that. Okay. Okay. I
Yeah.
wasn't even not thinking that way. I was thinking other ways, but okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, we're getting it live, right? So, all right, we're going to go point by point. So that's how he got to know the famous people and he got
Hmm.
funding for his projects.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so back to the story. He was one of the most influential people of his time. All right, guess
Hmm.
he 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 knew everybody. So later in his life, he exhibited extreme OCD and chronic pain, and he became the first movie producer, and all this great stuff that he did. And I just was so suspicious. All right, so let's go by some of his businesses. Hughes Aviation. Okay,
Hmm.
so he designed all these cutting edge aircraft. He was an engineer. He tinkered with them, evidently. He designed aircraft. My assumption is he had a government contract
Hmm.
that helped fund that business because that was quite a big business. He flew around the world in 1938. All right,
Hmm.
so then my question was, I wonder, did he really? Because, we've talked about the land masses not being what we've been taught.
Hmm.
So he would have, if he flew around the world, he was in that club where he knew the land masses were different than we're taught, right? Via
Yeah.
map. Okay.
Hmm.
He won airspeed records. He crashed a few times, so that's why he had chronic pain.
Hmm.
So, can we talk a little bit about the pilot, the engineer aspect, and him flying around the world, that kind of stuff? Is there anything else we should know there?
For the most part, he doesn't actually know how to fly a plane. That's why he had the crashes,
Say that
right?
again. He does, so that's a fallacy?
Yeah. So for the most part, he would actually have somebody else fly him. They would just have them, like, you know how they have ghost writers? Well, they
Yep.
have ghost flyers. So yeah, he doesn't actually know. That's why when he did a few times, he did crash. I mean, what other pilot crashes? I mean, unless there's like serious issues with the plane, for the most part, a pilot knows how to fly, right? I mean,
Wow.
I hope so. especially if you're
I
getting on a plane.
this is actually pretty funny because this story is radically different than what we're taught.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
so far.
Yeah. So he basically had a chauffeur when he flew around the world, but he got
Yeah.
all the glory and the credit and the fame, even now, 100 years later.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you listen, that time, like you said, people didn't have a lot of money. So if he paid right, people would be okay with that.
Okay.
Even nowadays, people do that. Like they'll ghostwrite for people because they're getting paid a significant amount,
Yeah.
whereas they wouldn't even make anything close to that if they, tried doing it themselves.
Yeah. So these airspeed records, did they actually win them?
No, it was somebody else.
So they just put his name down as the winner. And just
Yeah.
like when he flew around the world, it was really someone else flying him.
Hmm.
And how about the engineering part? Did he actually invent better models of aircraft or whatever?
No.
Oh, what?
Most people that have these very successful businesses don't actually know what they're doing. They just were able to get the right funding. So it looks like they are very successful. They know exactly what they're doing. But when you're successful and you have money, most of the time you can hire somebody else.
Wow.
So not only did he hire people to fly him, to help him beat these records, he did have their help on engineering. And sometimes it would be, just a pilot making simple suggestions, but
Yeah.
he would alter it to make his business. So basically taking somebody else's idea.
Wow. Okay, so I was told to do this topic a long time ago and I kind of backburnered it because we were busy.
Mhm.
And then I was told again. So now I'm getting it.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So part of what we're doing is exposing the story, right?
Mhm.
So, all right, let's go on to the next topic. Anything else about the aircraft? Like, did he have government contracts, right, for this
Yeah.
business?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. Government pays handsomely. It's not their money.
So, did he have anything at all to do with Hughes Aviation other than show up and hop in a plane?
No. He basically just signed some checks and it was his.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, think about
Okay.
it now. I mean, even like, these air I'm gonna say airplanes, but the air companies like what is it? Not Sprint, like
Spirit?
airline, Spirit. Do you think their owner and CEO know what they're doing?
They just
No.
know the
They can
business
apply
has
it.
to be.
They just know the business. They just know how to talk to people,
Yeah.
get funding, hire people. They can
Yeah.
do more of the business savvy stuff.
Ah,
But what he was really good at was making people think that he did it. He was successful. And that's what made his image brighter
right.
because he knew what he was doing. So you would trust somebody that knew what they were doing. You
Yeah.
would trust using somebody's products if they knew what they're doing
Right.
versus somebody that doesn't. So it was all about the show for him because that made him more successful because
Right.
people thought he knows what he's doing.
Right. So, yeah, the research I did made it sound like he personally tinkered with the engine and developed this new blah, blah, blah aircraft and the
Yeah.
fastest this and the best this. And so he just was really good at promoting himself using other people's ideas.
Yeah.
So doesn't that seem to be a common theme in what we've been talking about? Like we talked about
Mm.
Einstein recently, and he did the
Yeah.
same thing. He took other people's ideas, and he was very good at being promoted by the powers that be, as well as promoting himself as being the foremost leader, right? In his
Hmm.
field.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right. We're going to go to some other businesses and talk about those, okay, just for fun. But now
Yeah.
we've got a foundation. So RKO Pictures, okay, in Hollywood. So he created multiple award-winning movies. All right, and
Mhm.
there's a whole list of them. They're old movies. All right, and he was the sole owner of RKO for a while, and then that's still out there. It's one of the bigger, like what would you call it, movie producers,
Hmm.
but new movie companies. It's one of the biggest, but it's been bought several times. But from what I understood by reading what I did, is he was the producer, director for several movies. Some were flops, some won awards. I think three or four of them won awards right out of the gate.
Hmm.
Okay. Is that true?
Yes,
Oh, something's true.
but
Okay.
on on the backside, there's a lot of movies that were not released. So the reason he created this wasn't necessarily to be out there as a company for movies. That is just his forefront.
Uh,
You get what I'm saying?
I think I'm starting to. So,
Okay.
go ahead.
Pornography.
Okay, so that's how he got so
So
big.
yeah, so it has a forefront of these movies they won awards, but on the backside, people weren't seeing that he was creating these movies that he was actually selling for more. Most of the time, he was working with people on the darker side, so not all of it was good.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Hmm.
so back to how he was well connected. He dated all these Hollywood stars.
Hmm. Well, there
So
you go, Hollywood.
yeah, Joan Crawford, Ava Gardner, like they're old, names. Gloria Vanderbilt,
Hmm.
Betty Davis, names like that. So he had a whole list of these women that he dated. I think he was married a couple of times, but so that was his business. That was his like backdoor business.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So that's how he got started, is my guess. And that's how he became well connected. And then it
Hmm.
blossomed into this movie business,
Hmm.
which evidently he failed at after a while and gave it up. But so he's making a
On
living
on on some of it.
on some of it.
Yeah. I mean, even think about now, like all this stuff that's coming out in public now,
Yeah.
it's been done before. This isn't the first time stuff has come out about this stuff.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I was unprepared for that, but
Yeah.
but that's why we're doing it. Okay. All right.
Hmm.
So we're just gonna go to a couple more points. He was a real estate developer. He had a whole bunch of hotels, lots of real estate, especially in Las Vegas. And he was
Hmm.
very powerful in Las Vegas. And what I
Hmm.
read was he wanted Las Vegas to be more glamorous, not cheesy. He wanted it to be like old Hollywood. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that I hear what you've just told me, I'm like, right, that's BS too, right?
Yeah.
Because Las
Well,
Vegas,
why wouldn't you buy all that stuff? I mean, Las Vegas, I've never actually been. So I can only say on what I've, seen in movies and stuff and heard.
yeah,
But for the most part, everything he bought didn't really do anything. I mean, it's not a horrible place, but there's a lot of dark, negative things that go on there.
yeah, yeah,
And part of if his company worked on this darker side with their movies,
yeah,
free, you already have your hotels, you already have spots for filming, puzzle pieces, people.
yeah. I'm getting it out. Okay, I'm a
Yeah.
little slow, but I'm starting to get this. Okay, so he
Yeah.
owned a lot of real estate in Vegas, especially.
Hmm.
But he was, of course, probably making quite a bit in rent as well as other income from that.
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. Now we're going to go to another point.
Hmm.
In 1953, so he didn't have good health, okay? But evidently, as a child, he vowed to help others, okay, because he was so good, right?
Hmm.
So in 1953, he created the Howard Hughes Medical Institute in Miami, which is still there, okay, dedicated to biomedical research. Okay,
Hmm.
Okay, so big red flag, like the flag is waving. It's the fourth largest private organization in 2007. I don't know about
Mhm.
subsequent years, but it's huge. Okay. Now notice all the stuff we've got going on today with the biomedical research and all sorts of chemicals that people are supposed to ingest. But changing chemicals that change our bodies and all that. So one of
Mhm.
his pet projects was to basically create something that would heal and anti-age. So what are they doing at that center, or what were they doing? Like, are they doing something with organ donors or cloning? Like, what kind of stuff are they? A lot of bad stuff, huh?
The bad stuff. I
Okay.
mean, think about it. If they're focusing on anti-aging and preserving life, right now we only really know about one thing that preserves, and it's on the dark side, right? They
Yeah.
have access to medical stuff, medical equipment, people, so on and so forth. They do have other stuff going on, like the cloning and, stuff like that, but their big one is, you know what?
Okay. Okay. Trafficking involvement, all sorts of stuff going on there.
Hmm.
So I that was an obvious red flag. Even I got that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're still in business. Is there have they slowed down or been slowed down in the recent year or two?
They've been slowed down. Most people have slowed down because they are nervous that they're going to get caught. I
Okay.
mean, they've already had a few busts happening. So maybe they're moving stuff, maybe they've already switched stuff over. A lot of people are on that more scared side because they are, coming down harder and finding out about these things that are going on. Before it was more, we're conspiracy theorists, these people are crazy, but now there's actually evidence and now it backs up these crazy people. So it is moving in the right direction. It's just taken so long to get there,
Right.
but most companies that do go on this darker side are slowing up just for that fearfulness, but they do still participate in some way, shape, or form.
All right. So, again, they made this sound like it was a really philanthropic, a really good charity, helping the population, right? That's
It's PR. People know how to sell stuff. If he can sell himself, he can sell other things.
all right.
You just need to know how to market yourself. And this is what I tell my kids when we go grocery shopping. They want something. I'm like, listen, if it has something that you want on it, like an image, you probably don't want it
Yeah,
because there's something in it that they want people to have.
right.
So he made it so people would like, oh, this is a great place. Let me go here. Let me support here. Um, it's just a way to market. If there are people or things that are extremely famous, extremely popular, and say I am, kind of like the almighty, I'm the highest powered,
Yeah,
whatever you want to say, making that seem like they only do good, nothing negative, there's always going to be red flags because
yeah,
nobody's perfect.
yeah.
Nobody. So if they're saying I'm perfect in every single way, shape, or form,
Yeah.
we better go look in that closet. There's
Okay.
a lot going on.
Okay, so we're going to be working on clearing that place right
Yeah.
out now.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So progressing in his life, his OCD slash phobia started to take over his life, and he wouldn't leave his rooms. He was watching TV a lot, his movies, and just
Hmm.
just stayed in his room all the time. And he had like a phobia about germs, and he did all this
Hmm.
very weird stuff.
Hmm.
So, how the story goes, a group controlled his holdings, and they were there for 20 years controlling his businesses, and they were called
Hmm.
the Mormon Mafia. Okay, so
Okay.
they were the Latter-day Saints. Okay, giant red flag there. Okay, so he was definitely controlled. They probably took
Hmm.
most of his money, and we don't know what else, but did they like poison and control him? Like they basically did kill him eventually, but can you kind of talk about what they were doing that way?
So it was control. There was, you know, after a certain point, he did start to have regrets. And it's usually it started happening for him later on.
Okay.
And so he did come to a point where he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. He did come to a point where it was like, I just don't want to do this
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
Um, but at that point, it was too late. It was so profitable. It was such a big company that they didn't want it to stop. And he was still the main image. So that's where they started to switch it. So that way people thought like, hey, this guy is just kind of going down this rabbit hole. Obviously, he's probably going to die soon if he can't even, come out of his room. Because usually that's what you associate with. Like if they start to become antisocial, they start to disassociate, they start to not take care of their health. Really, it starts to lead to one point for people. So that's kind of what people were thinking. And later on, it did lead to that. But it was more of a controlled way.
Okay. So they basically were just monitoring his business and his real estate and his money coming in. They
Mhm.
made sure that they got their share. And for
Yeah.
those that don't know, the Church of the Latter-day Saints is one of the worst for, I won't say one of the worst. They're very well known for trafficking and
Mhm.
they've got tons and tons of money and a lot of trafficking going on. And it's like it's well known. So yikes. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. We've got just a couple more points. Around 1971, he was somehow connected with President Nixon and Watergate. Okay, so from what I recall, he had donated a large sum of money to the campaign. And so there was some sort of a scandal there. Okay, so we
Mhm.
don't know exactly what happened. Um, but I have always thought, and this is a separate topic but related, that Watergate was not about the re-election, about what the Democrats were doing, like we've been told. I always thought it was about human trafficking and
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
All right. So, is there anything you can fill in the blank, like what that scandal was for Howard Hughes and the Nixon campaign or presidency, how it might have tied into Watergate?
His help with the presidency was basically trying to buy it off. Was they wanted it was basically, I'll give you this money, you make sure everything stays under the table.
Wow.
So they started using it to leverage the money to leverage what they wanted.
Okay. And he basically got kind of slapped, his wrist got slapped.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, I guess Watergate is a separate topic, but was it about re-election or what was Watergate about?
It was human trafficking.
Okay. That's what I've thought for
But
years.
but
And
it's getting the information. It was documents to prove it. Most of the time, they don't want people to have too much evidence. So if they had evidence in a specific spot, so on and so forth.
yep. Okay. That's what I thought, but I just wanted
Mhm.
to get your take on it. Okay, so basically, later, I think it was 1976, Hughes died of kidney failure due to the amount of painkillers he was taking due to his all of his airplane crashes. Is that true, or what happened there?
No, they overdosed him.
Wow. Wow,
Mhm.
wow, wow. Okay, anything else we need to know about his life or his influence that we haven't asked? This is like I knew this was complex and ugly when I read it initially, but
Yeah,
you blew me up, blew my mind right from the get-go.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
So
lot of information.
so he was a good-looking young man, and so he got in with the wrong crowd, but that's how he got his popularity, his lifestyle, his money, and that
Mhm.
blossomed out to all these businesses where he would use that influence for personal gain, basically.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, and I guess we'll say to the viewer, comments and questions in below, and then we'll get back to them at a future date.
of course.
Right. Thanks so much, Deanna.
Yep. Bye.